All right, today we're diving into this really fascinating study out of coastal Kenya. And it presents, well, it's a genuine cognitive paradox, a medical mystery that totally flips the script on what we think we know about how chronic illness actually affects the brain. So here's the question that really kicks things off, and it's a wild one. Could living with a chronic illness like HIV actually make some of your cognitive functions better? I mean, it just sounds wrong, right? Usually when we think about long-term illnesses, especially something like HIV, we automatically think about cognitive decline. But what if the story is a lot more complicated? And maybe, just maybe, even a little more hopeful than that. Okay, so this right here lays the mystery bare. Researchers were looking at older adults in Kenya, and what they found was kinda stunning. Get this, the group living with HIV actually performed better on memory tasks and had faster processing speeds than the group without HIV. But, and here's the twist, at the same time, they scored lower on things like executive function and language skills. So what in the world is going on here? To figure that out, we first need to understand a huge hurdle the researchers were facing from the very beginning. And that hurdle really comes down to one thing: measurement. You see, for years, scientists have really struggled to get a clear, accurate picture of brain health, especially when you're working with diverse populations all over the globe. The specific condition they're trying to measure is called HIV-associated neurocognitive disorder, or HAND for short. It's not just one thing, it's a whole spectrum of issues. It can affect everything from your memory to your motor skills, and it impacts a staggering number of people. We're talking about half of everyone living with HIV worldwide. So you can see why catching it early is so critical. But here's the problem. The traditional tools we've been using to screen for HAND, they're deeply flawed. For one, a lot of them were designed for highly educated Western populations, so they can be really culturally biased. They also tend to miss the more subtle problems because the tests are too simple for some people. That's what scientists call a ceiling effect. And in the end, they just spit out a simple yes, you're impaired, or no, you're not, which completely misses the incredible complexity of the human brain. And the stakes here are just enormous in the real world. You know, as the researchers themselves put it, without the right tools, doctors and healthcare workers are missing these crucial chances to step in and help their patients. This isn't just some academic debate. It has profound real-life consequences for people. So, to get around this massive challenge, the research team turned to a pretty innovative solution, a tool that was designed specifically for the kind of environment they were working in. It's called the Oxford Cognitive Screen Plus, or OCS Plus, and the big game changer here is that it's all on a tablet. This makes it super portable, it's standardized, and it's just perfect for communities where those old school paper and pencil tests, they just don't cut it. So how does it actually work? Well, first, it gets around any literacy barriers because it's all about visual tasks, connecting shapes, identifying pictures instead of reading words. Second, instead of just giving one big generic score, it looks at different parts of cognition separately, like memory, attention, language. This gives you a much more detailed profile of a person's cognitive strengths and weaknesses. And finally, the scoring is all automatic, which makes the whole thing faster and helps get rid of any potential human bias. Pretty smart, right? Okay, so now that we have this much sharper, more nuanced tool, we can finally go back to that mystery we started with. Why were the results so mixed up, so paradoxical? The OCS Plus did confirm some of what we might expect. In certain areas like language and executive function, that's the stuff that involves planning and problem solving, the group living with HIV did score lower. This lines up with some of what we already knew about the effects of HAND. But that's only half the story. Because here's the other half, the part that makes this whole study so revolutionary. That same group, the one living with HIV, performed way better on memory tasks and had faster processing speeds. Now, the researchers think this could be happening for a few reasons. Maybe it's about who has better access to healthcare. I mean, think about it. People who are in consistent HIV care are seeing doctors regularly. They're engaged with the health system in a way their peers might not be. And that could be having protective effects we didn't expect. And that's the big takeaway here. The paradox is solved. Brain health isn't some simple on-off switch. It is a complex, detailed profile of all these different abilities. And without a tool that could measure these areas separately, this whole incredible picture would have stayed completely hidden. But the study didn't stop there. It went even deeper. Because what the researchers found is that once you start measuring cognition the right way, you discover that a person's HIV status is just one little piece of a much bigger puzzle. It turns out a whole host of other things play a role in brain health, and they fall into these big categories. Socio-demographic stuff, like your education, your medical history, your lifestyle, and even psychosocial things, like your social support network and whether you have enough food. And just to put this all into perspective, look at this number. The average person in this study had less than 5 years of formal schooling. This just powerfully drives home why a tool designed for low literacy settings wasn't just a nice to have. It was absolutely essential to get this right. So what you're seeing here is this incredibly complex web of influences. Everything from education and income to how much you exercise, whether you have enough food to eat, even your experiences with ageism, all of it was connected to cognitive performance. It proves that if we really want to support brain health, we have to look at the whole person, not just a single diagnosis. So, what's the big picture lesson from all of this? Well, the implications of this research go way beyond this one study in Kenya. The really crucial point is that this is a story about the power of innovation. It shows us that when you design tools that are culturally and contextually appropriate, you can completely change your understanding of a massive public health issue. It's about using technology to finally see what's been invisible all along. And that leaves us with one last really powerful question to think about. This study solved a cognitive paradox in Kenya because they built a better tool. So what other hidden truths, what other unsolved mysteries in medicine are just sitting there waiting to be discovered, if only we take the time to build the right tools for every community?